Hi again. Um, I'm doing this video a second time. Um, Mainly because I just really didn't like the first one. So, hopefully that's reasonable to everybody. Um, I don't really edit these, I don't really script anything. The only time I have notes is when I'm doing my peer review videos. Um, so I really just kind of come off the cuff. I'm not real worried about anybody getting mad about anything I say, because somebody's gonna. That's how it works these days, right? So, no matter what I say, someone's gonna have a problem with it. Um, what I am gonna try to do is what I do best, which is honestly say what I have to say. And if someone doesn't like it, they don't like it. If they have a fair point why I'm wrong, cool. But um, and I'm not going to say that I'm always right. I'll probably be wrong a few times. But I just want to put that out there. I recorded this video once. I just really didn't like it. Um, so instead of, editing and chopping things up, I just got rid of the whole thing and I started over. Sometimes that's what you have to do. Um, so I'm not reviewing anything today, but I am drinking something. So this glass right here is the very end of a bottle of straight malt whiskey from our friends at Spirit Hound up in Lyons, Colorado. Good friends, really cool people, really cool distillery, really good products. I try to stop there whenever I'm headed that direction. Um, Normally, if I'm headed that direction and I find myself in Lyons, Colorado, it's because I'm on my way to Estes Park. Both places I like to make excuses to go. So I will have to now replace this bottle. So I guess no excuse to go. Um, Before I go any further, though, I wanted to kind of let people know about somebody, another channel. It's called the Colorado Whiskey Guy. Um, he's seems pretty cool. I don't think I've met him in person. If I did, it was in an event, and I apologize to him, but I don't remember it specifically. I don't believe he's been to the distillery, to Black Bear, but he's invited. We're open this Saturday even, so he's definitely invited. I'll try to leave a link to his channel in the description, but he's easy to find, the Colorado Whiskey Guy. He does a pretty good job. I like what he's doing. He's trying to promote Colorado whiskeys. I dig that. I have to, promote Colorado whiskeys, but I also have to taste and review other stuff, because that's part of my career. So I don't get to just focus on Colorado as much as I want to. Now, that being said, one of the things I'm going to talk about, I have a short list of questions, and topics that get brought up to me fairly often, and I just wanted to address them because why not? It gives me a chance to procrastinate from what I'm really supposed to be doing right now. So I'm kind of using this as a mental break. Maybe mental break isn't the right word, the right phrase, but to give myself a break mentally. So I'm going to drink my single malt. I'm going to talk to you guys. The first thing to mention, and this is going to go to why I brought up Colorado Whiskey Guy in the first place. He's promoting Colorado whiskey. So one thing I get asked a lot at the table when I'm doing a tasting at Black Bear, when I'm meeting with customers, or when people just find out what I do for a living, they ask me, what are my favorite Colorado distilleries? I have no good answer for that. What I do have is a roundabout kind of answer. I have distilleries with products that I prefer, but to say I have a favorite Colorado distillery, or that I even have multiple favorites, would be a very difficult proposition to make. I love Spirit Hound. If I'm strictly looking for, a single malt, that's pretty high on my list. Boulder Spirits is on my list for that. They have really good single malt. Deerhammer out in Buena Vista, good friend of ours, and makes really good stuff. Woods down in Salida, really good stuff. Blizzard Peak has interesting stuff, and I mean that in a fun way. Not interesting as in don't want to drink it, but interesting in a good way. They have their green chili whiskey. They have bourbon. They have some really good stuff, and they're pretty cool people. 477 up in Greeley, they're really cool. Really nice guys. Good stuff. I just did a review yesterday on their stuff. So Art of the Spirits is another really good one that I like. Really good friends with the owner of that place. See him a lot because he actually lives pretty close to where we do. And then Dryland Distillery. They are very interesting as well. They have some interesting stuff. I'll be doing a review of one of their things coming up here probably in the next couple weeks. Really cool people. And then Feisty up in Fort Collins and Copper Muse up in Fort Collins. Two of my favorites in the state. They're not the only ones. I just named a whole bunch of people, right? But they're not the only ones that I really like. I like Peach Street. I like Golden Moon. I like Talnua. There's Durango Craft Spirits. There's a ton in Colorado, and most of them I know the people, I know the products, and I enjoy all of them. So I personally would say my favorite Colorado distilleries are most of them. Are there a few that I don't really know? Of course, because I can't keep up with everything, and we gain and lose distilleries, and not just in Colorado, but in the U.S. at a fairly rapid rate, and that means they last a year or two and then they're gone. One of my favorite ones that was in the Springs is closed now, so it's sad. These people are our friends. We like them. We like their products, and therefore, saying I have a favorite Colorado distillery would be like saying I have a favorite child. Someone out there's going to be like, of course you have a favorite child. Everyone has a favorite child. No, I don't. When it comes to my children, I like them all equally. They're all great for their own reasons, and Colorado distilleries are all great for their own reasons. The ones that aren't great don't last. There's a reason they don't last. So you can kind of bet that if they've been around for any length of time, they're good. They're at least good for somebody. And everybody should be able to find something they like in Colorado. Or just in general, all the distilleries there are in the U.S., you should be able to find something that you like. And worldwide, if you can't find a whiskey that you like, or a spirit that you like, or a distillery that you like, then you're not looking. That's the problem. There are people who are stuck on the same 5 companies, the same 5 or 6 brands, all the time. And I know somebody's going to say there's a lot more brands than 5 or 6. True. That is a very good point. However, there are only a few companies that make those brands that everybody talks about all the time, right? Not going too far into detail on that, but there are only 5 or 6 producers that produce about a dozen whiskeys that everybody talks about all the time, and that's all we ever hear about. And generally, when we hear about it, we're hearing it through the next question that I get, or maybe not question, but the next issue that I deal with on a fairly regular basis, and that is, compared to what I normally drink, this tastes young. Of course it tastes young. You're comparing it to distilleries that have been around for a long time. They've had time to put out 10-year-old products. They've had time to put out even older products. So at the same time that their younger products, their 4-year-old bourbons, are still being done in a method, in a way that they've been working on for decades or hundreds of years, depending on which side of the world we're talking about. So when you say this bourbon from Colorado, it tastes young, of course it tastes young. Most of the distilleries in Colorado aren't that old. The 10-year bourbons and 10-year whiskeys from companies in Colorado are just coming out. Like, we really don't have as long a history as the one you're comparing us to. And that is kind of not really fair, right? That's the same as your kid saying, I got all B's on my report card. That should be a good thing. And the reaction is, why aren't they A's? Because they're B's, right? So you're taking away the fact that they worked hard and got B's by saying they're not A's. So still not good enough, and essentially. Well, you also didn't give them a chance. And that's the thing that I find with most people. They don't give their local distilleries a chance. They don't give, and I'm not just talking Colorado. Other states do, but since I'm in Colorado, they say Colorado doesn't have any good bourbons. Well, what are you comparing us to? If you're comparing us to a place that has multiple distilleries that are really old, of course we're not going to taste older. But also you have the problem of going out of business waiting for your bourbon to age. So people have gone out of business waiting for their bourbon to reach 2 years in the barrel. That's not that long in the huge scheme of things, but that's 2 years waiting for something to age with nothing else bringing any money in. It's a very common mistake in distilleries. That's why so many of them start with a vodka, or some of them start with a moonshine, because they're trying to bridge the gap between opening and releasing the aged products. So when they reach that 2-year mark, they're ready to go. And then they get hit with, well, that tastes young. It's kind of rude. In my opinion, it's a rude statement. It doesn't address the fact that somebody worked really hard on that. They're excited about it in general. They're excited that they have a bourbon on the market, and somebody comes back to their local distillery and says, yeah, this bourbon tastes young. It's not as good as whatever from Kentucky that's 12 years old. Of course it's not 12-year-old bourbon. It's 2-year-old bourbon. We said that. So it's just for me personally, and some people might not agree with this, for me, saying it tastes young is an indicator of a lack of experience. Now, I'm not saying you haven't had a whole bunch of whiskeys. You may have tried thousands of them. The inexperience that you have is inexperience with non-mass produced, non-large company whiskeys, which there are a lot more of than you might think. So that's where I'm at when it comes to the "it tastes young" talk. I don't like to hear it about anybody's product, not just ours, anybody's. It tastes young. So if someone recommends a whiskey or talks about a whiskey to me and says, "But it does taste kind of young," that is a statement that goes in one ear and out the other. I will determine for myself whether I think it tastes young or just right or whatever. Does that make sense? And that's how everybody should be. You make your own decision. You don't some people do, go to movies based on the reviews. Why would you do that? Reviewers have ulterior motives. Reviewers also may not like some actors. Why would you do that? So for the same reason, I don't listen to other people about whiskey. I taste it for myself, and you should too. And in Colorado, you have a whole lot to get through before you have to make a decision on whether you like Colorado whiskey or not. And I would guarantee, if you try all the distilleries in Colorado, you will find at least one that you like, that you don't think tastes young. But we are getting older. All the distilleries in Colorado are getting older. We're going to be putting out more aged products. You just have to be patient, and that's where people tend to lose track. They want everybody to have a 15-year-old whiskey right now. Well, some companies aren't 15 years old, so they can't have that. So taste young. That's just a sign that you don't fully know what you're talking about. Go ahead, be offended. It's fine. But I just don't like it, and I don't think anybody should say it. It tastes like a 2-year-old bourbon. That's a better way to phrase it. By the way, some of those older bourbons just taste like wood. They don't taste like bourbon. They taste like wood. And that has led me to a couple other things where people say, this is my favorite bourbon, and what they pull out is something that I know for a fact tastes like wood, because it's a neutral grain spirit that's corn heavy, and it's aged, and all it tastes like is the barrel. If you like the taste of barrel, just say you like the taste of barrel. It doesn't have to be bourbon. Anything aged in a barrel will do for long enough. In fact, we try not to let ours sit in the barrel too long because we don't want it to taste too much like wood. So where you say it tastes young, I say good. It doesn't taste like the barrel. So rant over. I'm gonna end there. It does take a lot of work just to get to the barrel. So on another question, how long does it take? Besides aging, it takes a couple of weeks to get a batch to the barrel. Now, that's the system we run where I work. That's not necessarily true of every system everywhere. All distilleries choose the system that they run. They choose the process that they do. And some take a little longer, and some no time at all. Some are very quick. In our case, batch of rum is a couple hours, few hours of cooking, 3 to 5 days of fermentation, and then the still run, which for rum, for us, on average, takes 6 to 10 hours. Um, when it comes to whiskey, cooking is 6 to 7 hours. Fermentation, 5 to 7 days. And then in the still, it can take up to 24 hours. Just depends on the temperature outside. We're at 7,800 feet, so the outside temperature, the barometer, all that stuff plays a factor in the distillation process. So sometimes it just takes longer than other times. But you're talking before it ever gets to the barrel, minimum of a week and a half for just about everything. And that work is not easy unless you have a team. And so for the first few years, occasionally I had helpers running batches, but a lot of times it was just me by myself. Now I have 2 helpers pretty much all the time, at least 1 every time. So that helps, but it still doesn't cut down on the time. It's still just as long. Now another thing that gets brought up, this is at the tasting table, is what glass should I use? What shape glass? Does it matter? It does matter. Everybody I know, or most of the closest friends I have in the distillery world, spent at least some time testing glass shapes. Glencairn is pretty common for Scotch. There's a kind of a teardrop shape that's pretty common. That's what we actually decided worked the best for us. Another thing that we thought worked the best when we're guiding a tasting are straight-sided glasses. So a glass that's got sides like that. They're relatively straight. They're not at much of an angle. That works best for our products, and so that's what we use. We use a straight-sided glasses for tastings. But for the more experienced taster, for the person who is clearly more well-traveled in the world of whiskey, we use a teardrop shape, and that's what we sell. We sell glasses at our distillery. We sell the teardrop shape because that's what we think is best for the experienced taster. Glencairn is specifically good for scotches. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't like it for certain other things because it focuses the wrong parts. So I recommend you use whatever glasses you can get a hold of and do your own tastings with one product in 3 or 4 shapes of glass and see which one you think tastes the best. But that's an experiment you would have to run. And then on that same note, I get asked, do you drink it neat, or with whiskey stones, or with ice, or a chilled glass, or whatever? And the answer to that for me is neat most of the time. If I do want anything chilled, I use whiskey stones. And the reason I use whiskey stones is because they chill it just enough and they don't water it down. Ice waters it down. Chilled glass is fine. I just don't want to stick a bunch of glasses in my freezer, so I have them. If I had an extra freezer, I might do that, but typically I'd prefer it to be slightly chilled or at room temperature. But that's just me. Everybody has their own thing. So again, try your own thing. See what you like. Chilled glass, room temperature, stones, ice. That should be up to you. And no one should be pushing you to drink things a certain way, but they certainly will. They will tell you how to drink everything. So I say figure that out on your own. But for me, I like a neat whiskey in a glass. And personally, I don't necessarily care what the shape is of the glass. I like trying different things and seeing if I get something different. So, different shapes. That's what I have at my house. That's my recommendation. Different shapes. Try the different forms of chilling or not chilling. Do whatever you want. In addition to that, I get asked how many things I do. I do this. This is not a job. I'm not monetized. I don't get paid for this. I'm not worried about that. But as far as actual work, how many actual positions do I hold? The answer is, depending on whether you count being a father as a position, I don't necessarily, but it is work. I'm lead instructor at a culinary school. I'm lead distiller and general manager at a distillery. I have now helped, I don't want to say helped, that's not right. I've now co-founded with my wife a whiskey house that will be open hopefully by summer. That's the plan anyway. We just have to do some work on the building. I'll do more talking about that at another time. So right there you've got 3. And then we have another project that we're working on where I don't know what my position will be officially. No idea. So that'll put me at like 4. Unless you count the kid thing, which then 5. But so I have like 4 positions, and then at night is when I do this. So there's the explanation of why I do this at night, because that's when I have time for it. Those are just a few things that I get asked about or that come up that I wanted to address. Overall, here's your conclusion for this video. You should try all the whiskeys that you can. Within reason, not all at once, and but as you have time to do so, you should try all the whiskeys that you can, and other spirits too. This isn't just about whiskey, but other spirits too. And you should try them in various serving styles, various glass styles. Just try everything that you can. It's going to take a while to wrap your head around everything, but try everything you can. Figure out what you like, not what someone else told you they liked and think you should like as well. That's been the biggest lesson I've learned in this community. I should not listen to what someone else tells me. I should go taste it myself. If you have an opportunity, go visit the distillery, the local ones for sure, because some of them have really, really cool setups. They have really cool buildings. A lot of us are in historic buildings with a history behind them, and you should definitely be checking that out, because we like to show it off. So I recommend going to see all those things and hear the stories and hear about all the weird things that have happened in the distillery to the people that work there. It's fun. It's a good time. That being said, I don't have any other questions to answer, but if you have questions in the future, feel free to comment those down below. Also, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking to the 7 of you that are subscribed. You guys are cool, so stick with me. And then I will see you in another video. Don't know when, don't know where, but I will see you in another video. So, cheers.